Good morning, this is Paul Gordon, the president of Golden Gate Enterprises, and today we're going to take a brief look at what's going on at the Orange Park Homeowners Association located at 233 Orange Street in Oakland. This, by the way, was a visual property inspection of general conditions observed. It is not meant to be 100% complete or thorough, but rather an experienced set of eyes identifying what I would categorize as more obvious aspects of issues that need to be addressed at the building. Along those lines here, there's the official legal disclaimer here that tells you that this is by no means 100% complete, and this is my personal set of opinions and assessments during our site visit on your property here. So let's take a look at the major areas of focus as we walk through the building. One is what I refer to as the left stairwell. This is looking at the building from the front of the building. So this would be your primary entrance to the building on the left side. The left stairwell is one area. And then at the very top of the stairs is another section I want to identify. That's the left stairwell upper corner. So it's when you walk all the way up to the top. And I believe, and forgive me if I don't have this correct, I believe I briefly met Randy up at the very top, and it's right where the wall that separates the top landing from the roof line up there. There's a number of issues taking place there. Then there is the left wall of the building. This is again looking at the building from the street. And if you go to the left side of the building, this is to the left of your entrance, it would be in your neighbor's driveway. I believe it's their property where you see the big left wood-sided side of your building. That's another area I want to discuss. Another area is the right stairwell. And this is again looking at the building from the street, and this is the set of stairs that goes from the ground level all the way up to the roof. It's a stairwell and the roof access area itself. And then, of course, we've got the rear wall of the building, and I'll speak briefly about the roof as we go through this here. So let's take a look at one area here. This is water leaking from the roof to the framing area here. And if you go up to the top of the stairs, we have done a little invasive investigation, and we've opened up the stucco here, and there are clearly signs of rot and deterioration in the area here. But what's been happening here, and the point of bringing up this picture, is through this doorway here, over time, lots of water has been leaking in, and it's gotten into the wall cavity, into the floor system here, and ended up causing a lot of rot. You also have leaks actually at the intersection of the door threshold and the entrance or exit, if you want to call it that, to the roof area. You can take a look at it. So these are probably more just, some of the causes, if you will, of the bigger problems that have taken place here. And again, if you look inside here, and I don't know if my cursor can show this here, but anyway, in the right hand corner of the wall, the picture here, you can see the opening where water has just been leaking in. So that's one area of concern. Ultimately, what this has generated is what I refer to as rotted framing underneath the stairs. And if you go up to the top landing on the right-hand side of the building, we've opened up the area directly below the penthouse area, and that stucco is opened up so we could get a better look at what's going on. And what we have found in this area here is extensive damage here that is symptomatic of the bigger problem, which is the water leaking, and also, quite frankly, probably not the best construction. If you take a sharp, blunt device, you can poke it through the framing up here. It's completely rotted, and interestingly enough, you can see this in another video that I will send links to. You can actually see the dust come out of the framing area here, and this is likely powder post beetles, which is unfortunately very common, but it is really kind of an area that is opportune for powder post beetles when it's wet and dark. So over time, the moisture problem has been the real culprit that's caused this. This area that has actually completely rotted out, it's the reason why the penthouse roof structure is all sagging and rotating. It's because this framing has substantially failed. and you can also see a little further back in this open area some other areas that are part of the support area that are completely overstressed and cracked. And as a matter of fact, Todd was up there when we were kind of walking through this, and I think is pretty well aware of the area that I'm referring to here, but I just point this out to you. The penthouse enclosure is failing. In another picture, another video, you can get a better sense of this, but that's Sal. Believe it or not, he's standing up straight. Your penthouse building is, you know, tilted over, pick a number, a good 20-25 degrees, and you can also see that the door frame, that gives you an idea of how far out of plumb the whole structure is. I would definitely categorize this as a risky situation in that not only is the framing underneath this penthouse system completely rotted, but the structure has shifted and rotated, and I won't be able to identify the exact weight, but you probably have 5,000 to 10,000 pounds of dead weight in this penthouse structure that's tilted over, and I would certainly categorize it as a risk of collapsing or falling over. So I would take it as a fairly serious situation here. Twisted support column. This is really a symptom of a bigger set of problems. If you go up to the very top floor, hopefully this picture kind of depicts this, and I have a few other pictures and videos. You can see what's supposed to be a rectangular box, but it's completely contorted because of the pressure on it and the sinking of the floors. That is part of the rotting and deterioration that's taking place, which we'll talk about in a few minutes here. This is just a little closer picture. That's supposed to be a straight wall. It's very, very, very twisted because of the forces that are being exerted on it. Here's another area that's really frustrating to see, but it's what I'll call improper wall framing. When you have siding like this, you never bring it down to the grade level. This is your siding that's in the columns, and that's the cement pads or landing areas. And the reason why you never bring the siding down to the finished grade is because, of course, when you get water and it rains, what does it do? It hits the bottom of, in this case, the wood siding, which ultimately causes problems with water infiltration and rot. So when we saw this, sure enough, we decided to go ahead and take a little further investigation, opened it up, and lo and behold, you have several things going on here. You can see the water staining, and by the way, it's been dry for whatever, a number of weeks here. So this is actually not wet. This is actually the stains of the water, which is really indicative of how much water has gotten in there. So not only has it gotten into the siding, but what you're looking at, and where Sal has a screwdriver, that is what's referred to as the shear wall. It's supposed to provide structural strength to this whole wall and column system, which is actually pretty critical given the support that it's performing for the building on this side. And all of this is rotting out. What should have been done is this should have been properly flashed. The siding should have been held off the ground several inches, and you would not be having this water problem. So every one of these levels here, this is all going to rot out. And what the siding does, touching the concrete, it just wicks the water into the system. Also, I want to point out something here. My comment is, it's kind of hard to see in this picture. You'll see it in another picture. The very bottom strip of the shear wall, there's a piece, I'm going to say approximately 3 inches. It's kind of where Sal is holding his screwdriver, and you can see the nails that are in there. This shear wall, when you put it in, it's supposed to be a continuous piece of wood that goes down to the bottom plate of the framing, and that's what kind of ties it all together and gives it its structural strength. So whoever put this together, they ran short. They started the wood up top. They were a little short, and they decided they'd just cut a little 6-inch or 4-inch strip, whatever it is, and nail it in. But they completely missed the point because you've lost the structural value of tying in the whole sheet of plywood to the bottom plate of the floor, which is really critical. There's other techniques to use. It should have likely split the plywood in the middle of the wall and then use metal straps to tie it together. So you didn't get the benefit of the proper shear wall. By the way, that little piece that you see right there is that little 3 or 4 inch strip that somebody brilliantly nailed in to kind of fill in the missing area at the bottom. there's maybe a little bit better picture. You can see the area that came out because it was rotted, but you can see where they nailed in that strip. And again, you can see all the water staining. So just wanted to point that out as another area that we found that needs to be addressed. No flashing and water in the wall. So one of the things that's happening at the building is, and there's a number of things, by the way, is that the twisting and contortion of the columns on the right stairwell, the big brown columns as I call them, it's happening because two things. One, the framing in the column system likely has rot in it, and probably the bigger area is that underneath each of the cement landings, that's floor 1, 2, and 3, is traditional wood framing. There's a plywood subfloor. There's the cement concrete landing that's poured. But supporting the plywood subfloor are joists. That's what basically is holding up the floors, and it's framed. What I believe has happened is that water has gotten into this whole system at all levels, and it's ultimately ended up causing rot on the joist. And as the joists rot, the weight of the whole structure begins to push down on the rotted joist, and what happens is you start getting the sinking that goes along with it, because the joists no longer are providing the support because they're starting to rot out. And if you walk up the stairwell and you look carefully, especially starting at the 3rd floor, you feel like you're on a runway tilted to the left, because the whole system is starting to sink and collapse, and that, I believe, is what's causing the whole system over there to lean. Everything from the ceiling to the floors, everything's pulling away from the side of the building here. There's a better picture, and the point of this is that when it rains, there's a big open gap on the side of all of the columns where water is just pouring down into the wood framing, and there's just you can't preserve that wooden column structure and have water flowing in there, because it just becomes a big rot box. So that was never sealed up the way it should be. And if you look at the very bottom of the columns, may be hard to see in the picture, but if you go take a look at it, you can see signs of water staining at the very bottom of the columns. These are where the new footings were poured. And the point of this picture is that when it rains, there's clearly water that's coming through the columns and working its way out at the bottom. That's not a good sign, because water shouldn't be in those columns. Let's see. Other signs of water infiltrating the system. You can see all the deteriorated flashing and the likes, and that's because water's just penetrating in all over the place. By the way, another symptom suggesting and showing the type of water infiltration, I believe it was Willie that indicated one time when he changed a light bulb down at the bottom landing, on the underside of the bottom landing. There's a light fixture there, went to unscrew it, and it was all completely filled with water. What that tells you is when it rains, water is going through the cement flooring system, the landing, working its way all into the framing, and gravity brings it down. So none of that's a surprise. So and by the way, the failure of the if you want to call it the entrance of the water into the floor systems and the landings is not entirely just the gaps that are open by the columns. It's likely that the waterproofing system underneath the cement has failed over time, which is not uncommon. And when it rains, the water just penetrates the cement and saturates it, and then the water continues to absorb in. Let's say pulling away from the wall, just another symptom here. I don't know when the building was last painted, but I believe this is on the 2nd or 3rd floor. You can see how the railing system is actually separating and pulling away from the wall, and that just shows you that the whole stairwell again is pulling away from the building as it continues to sink and fail. Let's take a look at what I call failing stairs on the upper right side. This is the last run of stairs that goes from, I believe, what would be called the 3rd floor up to the penthouse. This is a very dangerous situation, in my opinion, and it's dangerous because both the bottom and the top of the set of stairs is secured, or let me rephrase that, is supposed to be secured into proper structural framing at the bottom of the stairs and the top of the stairs, unfortunately, it's pretty clear that both the bottom and the tops of the stairs have failing framing, and you can see the stress and the cracks and the rust that's associated on the actual iron column supporting it, as well as the wood framing that it's secured to. My opinion is that the stairwell should be closed, should not be used, and as far as I'm concerned, it could collapse and fall at any time. You've got the weight of the structural steel that's there and the cement treads, yet it's bolted in at the top and bottom to what is clearly known to be rotted framing here. So I would consider that a high risk area, as I would the penthouse, for the reasons that I discussed before. Let's take a little closer look at this. If you take a look at the crack that's at the bottom of the stairs, it's because the load is, if you want to call it, shifting to the left, and it's putting a great deal of stress trying to find another place to kind of pick up the support, because the primary places where the bolts are in are no longer carrying the load. And you can see where it's pulling apart the framing that's there. And if you look at the ceiling underneath, there's a crack that goes out to the left all the way to the column, and it's bulging, and you can kind of see where the stairs are pulling on the whole floor system here as it desperately seeks a way to kind of hold on. The other big thing is that the plate, both at the top and the bottom of the stair system, is seriously rotted and rusted, and you can see significant rust in one of the bolts, and they're likely all rusted, but one of them you can clearly see from the front. And I show this in a video later on. That's the underside of one of the plates, and it's basically rusted all the way through. So this is the structural plate that's supposed to be, providing support for the 10,000 pounds of a stair system, and people, when they walk up and down, clearly at risk. There is a picture, I believe, for the plate at the top of the stairs, or it's a picture from the top angle here, so you can see how much the rust has gone through the whole plate. Okay, the right side, column, stress, and twisting. A little bit more discussion of the same thing here. Sometimes it's hard to see these things unless you're looking for them. So that's a picture from the street. And as you look a little closer at the column, there you can see the rotation and the twisting, and that's up on the third floor. It's fairly severe. The first and second floor seem to be a little bit more plumb, but the big piece here is clearly at the third floor, which to me might suggest that there's more rotting going on at the landing right here at the third floor, causing it to sink. But anyway, you can't tell these things until you really open them all up. There's another picture to show you how twisted it is here, so hopefully everybody gets an idea of what that looks like. The right rear fascia, just another area here that was fairly obvious. This is on the right side of the building, kind of on the side where your neighbor's driveway is on the right, and it's towards the back of the building. This is leaning off the third landing. You can see the rot that's up in the fascia here, and one of the boards that goes up from the top of the building down the sides, completely rotted out, as is most of the fascia up there. So it's an area that definitely needs some attention. The rear guardrail decks, I don't think this is any surprise to anybody, but pretty much I believe there's 2, 4, excuse me, 6 decks back there. All of the guardrails have varying degrees of rot associated with them. The guardrails need to be pulled out and replaced and redone, I guess in a similar fashion to what was done up front. One of my concerns would be, and it's really kind of unknown, if water has penetrated actually into the floor and the deck systems themselves, causing damage. So once we got into one of these railing systems here, we'd want to at least probably open up the stucco from the underside to make sure that the framing itself doesn't have rot and deterioration in it. And I also know we have the stucco dividing walls between the decks here. Those would have to be opened up and inspected also to see if there's problems here. The other picture here, as we zoom in a little bit, There, if you look at the second board from the right, you can see the amount of deterioration in another video that we have here when we were up, I believe it was in Jessica's house, poking around at the deck, and over at Willie's deck, significant rot. As a matter of fact, you can see in this the deck that's very obvious, but you look at the next deck over, you can see what, 1, 2, 3, a third vertical board over, you can see all the rot down at the bottom. It's pretty much all rotted throughout the area back here. No surprise to anybody. The other thing is, I just wanted to point it out separately. I call it the rear wall stucco windows. There are several areas that kind of had things that look like this. Those areas that are opening up, signs of some buckling. What it suggests to me is that at some point there was water infiltration in there, and these areas need to be kind of explored a little bit. I would suggest if work is done in the back of the building that it probably include replacement of windows at the time the work is done in the building, and also the exterior of the back of the building be treated with an elastomeric textured type of paint, stucco finish product that will help waterproof the walls and give you another barrier, if you will, from the weather. So that would be part of what I'd call the back of the building effort and project. On the left side, guardrails. These are the stairs. I think I have a picture here. Here we go. On the left side, and the guardrails. Okay, so what I mean by the guardrails, those of course are the 1, 2, 3 sets of wood railings that you see there, and the sections are a little further back. They're in okay condition, but pretty much all that wood needs to be replaced. And I don't know that I have on this a way to kind of point to this, but if you kind of go all the way up the stairs, and you are going to go up to, I believe, what is Randy's house up top there, but instead of turning left into Randy's door, you walk straight and you hit that wall that separates the upper landing from the upper roof area. That upper right stairwell corner or roof area there is another what I call hot spot, which I have a few pictures of, but I figured it was easiest to at least identify it here at this point. So anyway, these guardrail systems need to be replaced, and as I speak a little bit later here, there's other sections of this stair system that need to be replaced here. So there's a little closer picture of one of them. It's kind of hard to see here, but there's tons of rot in the wood framing. Also, we'll talk a little bit about, you see that fascia board that's pulled away there on the left. That's kind of part of the problem that's happening with the siding, and there's water getting into the wall system up at that point here. This is pretty typical, heavy deterioration. You can kind of see what's going on there. Let's see, rotted left side guardrails. Where are we? Okay, that's just another picture, more of the same. I think everybody gets the idea. That, by the way, is a screwdriver coming from the top of one of the landings, and you can stick the screwdriver straight down through it. The wood framing is just completely toast, all rotted out. And this is on all of the floors, basically. We can go ahead and do that. And I think I show that in a separate video that we'll send over here. Left side, underside of the landings here. So let's take a look at this. I had my structural engineer out, and we looked at a number of things. Those metal pans that are underneath these decks, they're used for two purposes. They were part of a, if you want to call it, a form that was used when they originally poured the concrete on the landings there, the cement, and they also provide a degree of structural support. So what you'll notice is, as you go up and down the stairs here, the undersides of all three landings are substantially rotted, and it would raise the risk that you have lost and or are losing the structural support for the support of the landings themselves, and I would consider that a fairly serious situation in the scheme of other things that are going on. And this would suggest that one of the things that needs to be done is the landings need to be replaced as part of your repair efforts. But when I say this, and maybe a little bit hard to describe here, but I'll point it out, the frame around the perimeter of the landings. And if you look carefully, and if you go look underneath the stairs, you'll see the kind of corrugated metal, but it sits on the flange of a metal frame around the perimeter. And what's holding up the metal frame around the perimeter is a round cylindrical post. And if you look in the picture here, it's almost in the bottom right hand corner, that round cylindrical post. That's kind of what I call the structural framing or steelwork for the stairs. It appears to be actually substantially in good or / serviceable condition. It's the metal pans underneath that the slabs that are deteriorated and are failing, and that's because water continues to migrate through the top side. The waterproofing system has failed, so that would dictate that you need to pull out the concrete, redo those stairways. As a possible alternative, would have to explore it. It may be possible, but probably not the best solution, to actually try and weld some metal pieces to support the landings from the other side. But I'd consider that kind of a half-baked effort to treat the real problem, which is to pull out the slabs, redo it, re-waterproof it all correctly. So a follow-on question will probably come up is, well, how about the stairs themselves? The stairs themselves are kind of part of that metal framing structure, if you will. Other than one or two areas, it's an okay to good shape. In a couple of areas that have rust, there's additional plates that can be welded on to kind of counteract some of the areas where the rust has taken place. It would be nice to pull it out and all redo it, but if you're looking to say, how do we kind of repair what's there, that would probably be the approach. By the way, all of your stairs are no longer code compliant, and what I mean by that is you'll see on modern day stairs, they all have closed risers. That's the vertical piece. You cannot have any opening more than 4 inches going up a staircase system. So if you're redoing those today, you would see a concrete tread and a concrete riser going up vertically. And of course, pretty much everywhere you have your wrought iron railings, they're no longer code compliant because railings have to be 42 inches and you can have openings no longer no more than, has to be less than 4 inches. So there's another beautiful picture there. I'm sure everybody's looked underneath there. It's pretty rotted, the corrugated support system for the actual cement slab. And again, these are the landings and the left set of stairs as you look at it from the front side. They're pretty rotted out. Let's see, the left upper roof corner. That was the little area I was talking about before. That's the wall that separates the roof from the very top landing. There's just a number of things that are going on in here. My concern is that water's been kind of coming into the flat horizontal surface. My guess is that that corner's got a lot of rot in it, just because of the way I see water flowing, the deterioration of the wood. If you look over here, you can see at the intersection of the cement deck and the wall, you can see a lot of deterioration. You can see a lot of water damage on the deck itself. Matter of fact, I think, here we go. You can see the water that's gotten into kind of the framing and the metal flashing of this. And this is going to require replacement or repair. Don't know if it's gotten into the framing, but definitely kind of a water management issue up here that has caused damage and or will cause a whole lot of damage. So that's kind of at the top of the third landing at the front of the building here that needs to be addressed. Let's see, there's another pretty picture there, more of the same. And if we go over here, left side of the building, okay, everybody pay attention on this one here. It's not an area that anybody probably goes to look at, but you need to look at it. The siding is failing. You can see the delamination. You can see it pulling from the building. Those are individual sheets of T111 siding, as it's referred to. There's a piece of metal, what's called Z-flashing, that kind of ties one piece to the other. It's failed in most places, and where you've got the buckling and the siding opened up, where you can kind of see it warped, that's the deterioration of the wood. And when you have an area that's opened up and water's coming down, it just flows behind the wood and it's going into your wall system here. This is an area that absolutely needs attention, and I have no idea if there's damage to the framing behind it, or you've been saved by what should be the waterproof paper behind it. But I can promise you this, if you ignore this, this will turn into a big, very expensive mess, because your whole wall system will rot out. And one of the big issues you have here is, besides the cost of the siding and the wall system rotting out, is those two big metal pieces of conduit. I point this out in another video. Those are, excuse me, your main electrical feeds coming into the building. And if those had to be, pulled away to get to the framing, now you've got a pretty significant electrical project as part of it here, which could get very, very costly. So my quick visual observation is that, at least from what I can see, I think you're still okay behind where the conduit is, as long as you can kind of get to the stuff and take care of the rest of the siding here. Let's see. That is a side view of that piece of fascia board that's coming loose. And let's see if I can go back. I think that's the same fascia board there. But anyway, it's kind of tied to the siding. And this is popping away. This is the top of the third landing. And you can see where water just goes right behind the open piece and going into the wall cavity that's there. And, oh, there we go. That's the picture I was looking for. So that's kind of the front view of it. And you can also see the siding, how it's curled out. So you can imagine when it rains, water goes down, it's not going down the wall, it's going down the wall behind the wood siding. And of course, that's getting into the wall system, causing potentially great damage to all of the framing. So that's the left wall system. And by the way, I point this out in another video. To access that will require scaffolding, will require cooperation from your neighbor, because the scaffolding is going to have to be on their property to get access to the building in order to do repairs on this side of the building. Let's see, there's another pretty picture of the same side of the building, kind of more of the same. Let's see, recommendations. I'll go through this in a couple of different places, but very simply stated here, at the top of my list, personally, would be the right stairwell in the penthouse, because those are safety-related issues. And from my viewpoint, in my opinion, is that could be a structural failure that could happen at any moment in time. A little shake, a little 4.0, 5.0, and that whole thing could just go, collapsing down. I would not have people walking, in my opinion, up that last run of stairs up there. I would consider it, very, very dangerous, and I would, quite frankly, close it down at this point. And one of the things I would recommend, and we can talk about it separately, is the removal of that top set of stairs and the penthouse immediately, so you remove the risk of the collapse of those items. This, you can talk about priorities later, but I would say maybe the left side stair landings and guardrails, and it's just because the landings have the potential, to fail structurally, because those corrugated pans are completely rusted out underneath. And I'm trying to focus on things that I would consider safety related. So if I had to kind of categorize those, definitely the right stairwell in the penthouse. Then I would kind of put in those corrugated pans under the landings on the left side, and then I guess I would put the guardrails everywhere around the buildings to the extent that they're rotted out. And maybe the real test is, if you're trying to allocate funds, is go around and really kind of shake the railings, and if they're really that rotted, replace those. But I think most of them will still function okay. It's just that the rot is fairly severe, and they all do need to be replaced. Let's see, the left side siding, I would not put that as a safety issue, but I would put that as a huge get on it remedial effort, because if you leave it, it's going to end up turning into a very expensive mess, because if that side of the building starts to rot out, it'd be quite a project to have to open it all up and reframe it and remove the electrical if it came to that. The roof, I'm not going to go into it here, but I would say that we bring in a couple of different roofing folks in here, because there's clearly some problems with the roof that need to be opened up and explored. I have some suggestions and ideas on that front, but that's part of your building envelope system that needs to be addressed, because if water continues to infiltrate, obviously causes quite a few problems. So that's my brief update on this, and there are several things that supplement this information. There are 3 or 4 videos that I will send that give you a better idea as to what's going on, and I have a brief written document that kind of supplements all of this. So this is kind of part of the multimedia update here, and hopefully it gives everybody a little better idea of what's going on. So I want to thank you for your time. This is Paul, Golden Gate Enterprises, and we will continue to discuss further. Thank you very much.